Welcome to day 246 of TFIF 365. And today I want to talk about something that I witnessed yesterday. Not witnessed, but read, went down a rabbit hole on it yesterday. And it's about masking, COVID masking. And so when I talk about the coalition of the wounded and that we all come into this space is, be their work, be there our religious institutions, our fraternal and sorority organizations, our, HOA stuff. Whenever we're coming into community, there is the coalition of the wounded that shows up. And that's just all of us, right? And so I wanted to talk about this masking thing because I find it quite interesting because, again, it's not a binary situation. If you are a person who believes in masking without any exceptions, it's binary for you. If you're a person who believes in not masking and it's that's the only option for you, then it's binary for you. I like to live in the gray. I take that back. I have no choice but to live in the gray. That is how my life is. I don't live in binaries. There is nuance to everything. And so I just went down a rabbit hole just trying to understand some of the folks who don't mask, because if you saw it at face value, you would be shocked. So it was two incidents. One was a woman who was 4 days COVID. It was the fourth day, and she said there was too much she had to do. She had to run errands, and she chose not to wear a mask because it's claustrophobic for her. And my initial was like, oh wow, that's kind of selfish. And then I started thinking, okay, I just left that there because I can understand if it was a Saturday, you may have family, you have to, there are things you have to do. That's what she said. She said there was just too much. She couldn't stay home. And it was the masking part that brought it to my attention, that she just couldn't mask because of, she felt claustrophobic or whatever. And so I sat with that for a minute. And then later that day, I saw a video of a nurse who works at a retirement facility. And she was saying that her facility was on lockdown again because of COVID. And then she just explained how she and her peers have PTSD. And so when they start putting back on the PPE, it's not that they don't want to mask. I'll say she didn't want to mask. It's that when she puts the mask on, the head stuff, the wrap, the gown, it sends her back to PTSD. The times of remembering when all those people were dying, there was nothing they could do. They were worn out. They were scared that they were going to take this virus home to their families and infect them. There was so much. So every time there's this, because right now we're 3 days in the U.S. with 1,000 people dying. 3 weeks, 1,000 people dying a week, and this is the third week straight. So we're in a surge. And so she's saying that brings back all of that PTSD back of having to work, but believing that you were working in an environment that could kill you. And also she explained how because of the rules, the lax rules now in her medical facility and medical facilities throughout the U.S., particularly since CDC guidelines, people get to choose whether they want to mask or not. So now you find yourself in a place where you're quote unquote an essential worker, and the collective, the community is not working together to keep everybody safe. And so it made me go back to think about this other woman. And yes, I could still, from my perspective, say that she's selfish, but I don't know her lived experience. And see, that is where we get, that's where we have to go. That's where we have to do the work. That's where we have to work when we talk about managing and leveraging the coalition of the wounded. There are extenuating circumstances that we really need to address in order to ensure that our most vulnerable are prioritized and we minimize harm. So again, these are not women that I know, just saw them on social. And yet, because I focus on modeling supremacy-free, coercion-free, discrimination-free, and exploitation-free, it requires me to look beyond myself, to see what varying perspectives and accounts are out there. Now, what I won't do is go down the rabbit hole of people who are just fucking lying. I don't even call it disinformation and misinformation. It's just fucking lying. Now, you can go on with that shit. But when people are genuinely sharing their lived experience, I'm interested in understanding how that aligns with the coalition of the wounded, how that could positively or negatively impact the coalition of the wounded, how the coalition of the wounded could come together as a community to support these people, or are these people who need to be ostracized? There's a whole litany of things that I think about, and I can say that I'm really happy that I took the time to really dive deeper into why some people, not just the people who are, anti-science and that I can't get with. Y'all can have it. I'm not gonna argue with y'all. I just don't want to be in a space with you because you don't care about my my safety, and that's my priority. And so when I'm looking at the first woman who went out, she said she went out to shop with no mask on. And I don't know if that meant she had at that point was testing negative, or what that meant. But what it says to me is there are people, it's in my final analysis, there are people who have legitimate reasons for them not wanting to mask or not being able to mask. Would it be ideal if we knew that in spaces that we're in? Yes, it would be. But in lieu of that, then I have to do everything to mitigate my risk. And that means not going to places, not doing things, having a mask on, and people need to understand that. And that's another thing. It is, you have to understand the folks who choose to mask and not malign them, because that is the science, right? And at times, we're going to have to be able to extend folks grace who have just a different lived experience with this and other things. So this is just an example of how complex these narratives are, and how when we default to good, bad, right, wrong, up, down, we miss a lot of things and we harm people in turn. So yeah, so this is about the coalition of the wounded and masking. And what does that look like when we're trying to talk about supremacy-free, coercion-free, discrimination-free, and exploitation-free? We're talking about equal access, equal agency, equal leverage, and equal value, right? So I hope that helps somebody. Until tomorrow, peace. Become a sustaining sponsor at kimcreighton.com/support-the-work and help make this work happen.